Carter had hoped to be able to cross the border without fighting for his life, but people out for money were quickly on his heels, and some already waited for him in one of the towns he entered. Drawn to the wanted poster like flies, they lay in wait. News of him still being vulnerable had spread, and even youths of 19 tried to take his head. The outlaw had changed his tactic from open confrontation to hiding and moving silently. Texas was full of Confederates who still wanted to carry on the fight, civilians who had fled the burning Yankees, and criminals wanting to disappear, slip away from the news. Obviously, a face as popular as Carter's own was a beacon to everyone in need of money. The Federals wanted him, the rebels had no reservations selling out a traitor, and the alligators had no compassion for either side whatsoever. Still, hiding in a wooden swamp amongst the lizards was one of the more pleasant options. And as long as Carter remained silent and careful, he would not have to meet any teeth. Runner was more uncomfortable. He smelled the danger. He disliked the deep, muddy water. Carter did his best to soothe his friend. He never stayed in one place for long, especially after his wounds had finally healed enough to not be lethal anymore if he exhausted himself too much. Getting his hands on provision was another matter. He couldn't let himself be seen in town, any town, and not every man he met was a loner easy to overwhelm, nor did they have anything but money and ammo in their pockets. Neither of those two things were digestible. A day ago he had shot a duck. The swampy water, however, he didn't dare drink. Getting to Mexico was his only safe haven. He clung to that thought like a drowning sailor clung to a piece of wood. Carter stood between the trees and stared towards the lights of civilization. It was time to move on. He didn't urge his friend into a full gallop. He thought it would be safer to walk in a slow trot. That way he was able to keep a close look on his surroundings and any potential enemies. Small dust clouds rose where Runner's feet met the dry ground, and the pale moon turned them into ghostly silver fog. Carter's mind wandered back to the small town in Mississippi, and to his own family. The night felt cold and lonely instead of tranquil, despite the high temperatures. Moon set and the sun rose, but the land stayed flat and barren apart from bushes and a bit of grass. With nothing to hide, the man decided to travel on. With the sun beating down, his vision grew swiftly blurry, and since he wasn't focusing on the way ahead, he saw too late how a couple of riders with sombreros on their heads came from the opposite direction. Carter drew his own head deep into his face and made an effort to look intimidating enough to not encourage any funny ideas. "Hermoso caballo, eh?" one of the Mexicans said after they'd passed the weary traveler. "Demasiado bueno para un mendigo," another replied with a chuckle. Carter heard how the sound of several hooves vanished. They'd stopped and eyed him if it was worth it. He knew enough Spanish to understand they were after Runner. Even people not after his head couldn't just leave him in peace. It made him wonder if he should just have tried to start a new life instead of killing Yankees. He took a deep breath and let his right hand slowly wander to his coat. "Hey, senor!" Carter didn't stop, didn't turn around. He knew what was waiting. Several barrels. Better to catch them off guard. "Bajate de ese caballo!" "No," Carter answered firmly, earning an agitated "¿Qué?" But before the man could grow angrier, he turned swiftly and shot one of them clean between the eyes. The others discharged their own pistols at once. Carter shot another man in the shoulder who fell from his horse. Feeling a bullet pass him by, he got down and ran towards the next man. Dragging that one from his horse, he took him hostage after a good punch. Pressing his own gun against the Mexican's head, he hoped the others would cease firing. But they didn't care. Of course they didn't. They were probably bandits. No loyalty among the lawless. Using his hostage as a shield, he fired the rest of his bullets. Only the Mexican with the bullet in his shoulder he left alive on the ground when he went back to his stallion. "Come on, let's get the hell out of here." This time Runner fell into a gallop. They didn't stop until the States lay behind them. After crossing the border, the landscape didn't grow greener. Carter had expected some town, a waterhole, anything, but the desert just dragged on. Both rider and horse ran out of strength to carry on. Above them, the vultures started circling already. Seeing his friend struggle, Carter dismounted and led Runner. The stallion trotted behind him, yet there wasn't much spirit inhabiting him. Hearing the ghostly hoot of an owl, the man turned around in search of the source. Again it sounded, and when he focused, he saw a small dot in the distance. It glimmered in the hot wind. With nothing to lose, he changed direction to investigate. The pleasant sound of a guitar suddenly echoed towards the traveler. After a few more minutes of walking, he could hear a violin as well. The sound was mysterious and graceful, as well as full of emotion. It seemed to seep into Carter's bones, causing a strange longing in him to just follow the melody and forget everything else around. Upon getting closer, Carter recognized a large structure in hacienda style, made of white stucco walls and red clay tiles. A heavy wooden gate marked the entrance, and several small windows could be seen. The man just stood there like an idiot with his horse behind him. He was too tired to think or act. His throat was dry, and even his feet started aching after the long march through dusty dryness. To his surprise, he didn't need to knock. A lovely woman, clothed in long-sleeved, ankle-length garment, opened the gate. Her hair was embroidered with beads, and several bracelets clinked on her arms. Carter didn't even manage to croak a thank you. The woman just smiled and beckoned him inside. Behind the gate dwelt a large garden, and the courtyard as lush as the greenest valleys in Georgia. In the middle was a well made of marble and sculpted into a magnificent piece of art. "May I?" Carter gestured to Runner and then to the well. "Of course," she replied. He didn't even realize how he led his friend to the fresh water. The passionate music soothed his soul and eased his mind. It became difficult to think, and frankly, he didn't want to think. He couldn't fathom the size of the structure, as dozens of archways led to unopened doors. Carter just sat down next to a large palm tree and started dozing off in the cool atmosphere. The unexpected touch of a hand on his arm let Carter wake up with a start. A middle-aged woman with large earrings and wavy dark hair stood in front of him. She too wore bracelets. Paint on her eyelids and lips made her seem younger than she was. "We readied a room for our new guest," she said in a full voice. She wore a headscarf, tunic, and harem pants, all in a deep red. Carter was too grateful to ask about any hows or whys. He just followed her to the second floor, where a bed and a bathtub were waiting for him. In the corner of the room burned a candle in the form of a hand, where each finger carried a flame. They had even put out new clothes. Carter let himself sink into the dozens of pillows lying on the oversized bed. It was the music that carried him into new dreams. Beautiful dreams this time. About Lisa. She was dancing and smiling, dragging him to his feet, and the guitar kept playing its enchanting song, and the fires around burned brightly in the warm summer night. They danced. He and his esposa danced without dawn ever approaching. When Carter woke up, he realized that he felt rested in mind and body for the first time. The dream had let him feel joy after what felt like eternity. He still felt it after waking up. The cold emptiness, the dark hatred, it all had vanished out of his soul. Finding his room unlocked, he exited. Many doors lined the hallway. He wondered if those were rooms for other guests. Colorful Arabic lamps made of stained glass and metal illuminated the corridors and stairs, and the thick smoke of incense floated through the air. And still, or again, the instruments played their wonderful tune. Seeing a dark-skinned girl in a sleeveless tunic, long skirt and belt of gold and silver, he followed down the stairs. Down in a large hall were more women. One was standing on a kind of stage, dancing in tune with the music rhythm with a fan. She looked like an Egyptian goddess and moved with the same grace. There were indeed other guests in that wonderfully strange residence, sitting at tables with food and drink, their eyes glued to the stage. The dim room and the strong incense let Carter's questioning mind fall silent once again. Finding an empty table, he sat down and enjoyed the show. When the Egyptian woman was gone, another one came, dressed in a long skirt and a top that left her waist free. Several snakes were part of her dance, coming from seemingly nowhere. Skin covered in glittering gold, diamonds and other stones woven into clothes and hair. Earrings and bracelets, long skirts and tunics, short clothes. Every woman was different, but not less magnificent. It felt like a dream to Carter. Something in this place let him feel like the past had never happened. Golden skulls in various sizes gave shelter to some of the smaller serpents. Carter was ripped out of his musings when someone sat down opposite of him. It was the same woman who had shown him his room. She placed a glass filled with a strange alcoholic mixture in front of him. Carter mastered her. The old familiar paranoia was coming back to him. Who was she? Why was there such an oasis in the middle of nowhere? Flamenco was one of her favorite dances, wasn't it? At once his spine grew rigid at the knowledge he shouldn't have. It's one of the many things engraved in your memories. She smirked faintly in the dim light. That and the fire. How? Who are you? I'm your salvation, if you want me to be, she answered mysteriously, taking a sip from her own drink. See these lost souls? She asked, motioning towards the people around them. They couldn't bear life, looked for a way out of emptiness, and we filled their hearts with contentment. Amidst the dry desert, there is a green paradise. What are you? He asked cautiously. Demons? Spirits? Jinns? Angels? She added, still displaying an amused expression. We are neither evil nor good. We simply are your way out. She shoved the glass closer to him. It's your own decision to make that deal. Carter lost himself for a moment when an elegant ginger performed her belly dance. The next time he focused on the seat opposite of him, it was abandoned. The glass was still there. Only the devil makes deals. He muttered more to himself than anyone else. He knew he should go, be on his way and never come back. Another part of him wanted to stay though, for he remembered the terrible feeling of being Stephen Carter in a world that had stopped being his own. And here he could be no one. Here was a world that made him feel good. He looked for a catch, some small note telling him of the debt he would have to pay later. He found neither one nor the other. His soul was damned after all. His soul was damned already after all. Could these people be just compassionate souls? He had seen so much evil, he didn't believe it. Taking a sip from his drink, he felt his mind swim away as tranquil innocence fulfilled him. As his last wakeful part of himself was carried off to distant shores of dream and smoke, it suddenly struck him. They wanted all he was, all he had to give. Memories, emotions, perhaps even his soul one day, but in exchange for the ability to feel again, that seemed like a fair deal. A very fair one, in fact. How could he not give in? He had seen his future in his dreams. Being a prisoner of jinns was far more pleasant than being tortured by the devil. Emptying the glass, he enjoyed more dance and music. When a snake crept up his table and towards him, he didn't stir. The yellow eyes were hypnotizing. The patterns on its skin seemed to move like the smoke in the air around him. Carter felt nothing, in a good way. There was the absence of pain and guilt. and shame, the absence of anger. Revenge didn't drive him like a horse any longer. He felt at peace. The enchanting music was all he could think of. The dance, all he could remember. Everything else started fading without him even really noticing. His memories, all he was fading. Carter just let go. Let go of it all if it meant he would have peace. Whenever the woman of his past came to his mind, he had a drink. Whenever he heard a boy cry his name, he listened to the music until it all faded. The fire, the guns, the men in blue. Only the present mattered. Only the stage. Only the good things that made him feel. Stephen. Awoken from his slumber, Carter looked around. Steve? He didn't recognize that voice and reached for the glass on the table next to his bed. Don't do it, Steve. He faltered. He did know it. He just couldn't remember any face belonging to it. Please, Pa? Carter felt tears well up in his eyes without being able to really place the voices he heard. Don't drink it, the woman said, and he suddenly realized what was happening. The voice cried out again when he put the glass to his lips. Don't drink it. Don't forget. He did indeed stop. Forgetting is all I have, he said hoarsely into the empty room. Is it? The embodied voice returned. The man I married would never have forgotten just to escape the pain of being alive. Lisa. Jacob. More tears ran down his face, tears of regret. He had lost track of time long ago. He might have been there for weeks, forgetting, selling his soul, whilst his family's killer was still out there. He owed them to real justice. He had been so tired of going on, so sick of turning into a man who enjoyed killing. He had betrayed their memory, sold it away for meaningless joy. He didn't want to go back. He didn't want to go out there again and hunt and be hunted, yet those were the cards heaven had dealt him. It was his cross to carry. Clinging to vengeance, always about to lose his soul to the darkness, Carter took a deep breath, glanced at the glass next to him, and then to the door. "'Tis time to go." He took his hat and walked into the courtyard. Gunnar was neighing in delight at the sight of his rider. The saddle was in the stables, and his friend was not fond of the unpleasant idea. Still, there was no way around. Life didn't ask what they wanted. There was a moral obligation towards the dead to fulfill, one last task before he might be able to move on. Forgetting wasn't the right way to let go of the past. No one stopped Carter when he left the place. A strong wind blew, causing him to turn away his face, only to let him see that the building behind him had vanished like smoke. "Just mist and shadows," he murmured. How long had he been in there? Weeks, certainly. Enough time for people to forget his face. He couldn't stay hidden for too long. If Dabney had gotten the message, then he would be on the move by now.